Coming up on today's Bears Now episode, Jaylon Johnson has gone on a media tour, hopped on several national sports shows, and was asked a lot about Caleb Williams and had a lot to say about the new Bears quarterback. So we're going to dive into that here on today's show. But before we do just that, I'm still trying to get to 95,000 subscribers before training camp starts, which rookies report on the 16th, vets on the 19th. We'll mix in a little training camp talk later on in the show. But can we get to 95K? Can we do it? 500 new subs. If you're watching for the first time, you could be someone that helps us get there. We post videos every single day, and we're going to have daily training camp coverage. All right, I'm Harrison Graham. This is Bears Now. Jaylon Johnson doing a media tour, like I said, and I want to get into this first thing that he said, saying that Caleb Williams is just different. He hopped on NFL Network and said this, quote, "He's just different. He stands out. His arm talent stands out. His maturity stands out. The way he carries himself stands out. The way he wants to soak up everything like a sponge stands out. A guy like him could come in and be cocky, but nah, he's humble and he's grounded. He knows who he is as a man. He just comes in and handles his business, and everybody in the locker room and in the building respects who he is and respects what he's been able to come in here and do." And if you followed what Jaylon Johnson has said publicly, really for a long time, but especially this offseason, this is a pretty big shift from what he had to say before the NFL draft, because he was someone who was vocal about wanting to keep Justin Fields. So was several other players. And even after they traded Justin Fields, remember what he said? He was asked, hey, what about the idea of drafting Caleb Williams? And he basically said this: Caleb better not bring that Hollywood stuff in here. Remember when he said that? Now, we'll get to this in a minute, but he kind of clarified those remarks. But regardless of what the context of that was, he basically was like, yo, you're going to have to come in here and earn my respect and this locker room's respect. And I think that's pretty clear that has happened, right? Like, you hear what Jaylon is saying here. Yeah, the guy's mature. We really like him. He's been impressive. Like, that makes me really excited where a guy like Jaylon Johnson, who's vocal publicly, he does a weekly radio show during the season in Chicago as well. Like, this is a guy you hear from a lot, has strong opinions, doesn't back down, and has shifted dramatically in a short amount of time. Like, that's meaningful to me. Caleb has earned his respect in a short order here, and that should be very, very exciting to everyone. Number 2, clarifying the Hollywood comments that we just threw up there. This was via Jim Rome's show, who now does his show on Twitter. Jaylon having to say this about Caleb Williams. He said, when I did say that, I was never accusing him of being that type of guy. I think the interview got taken out of context. Actually being around him, talking to him, and seeing him with his family, he's not like that. To be able to see him in person and kind of think, what was everyone talking about? What were the issues? And this is something that continues to just blow my mind, of all of the chatter before the draft, and quite frankly, just kind of the character assassination. It just has completely been wrong. Like, all the talk before the draft, he doesn't work hard. He skipped media after a loss to UCLA. He's crying in the stands. He can't handle the spotlight. Like, teammates don't like him. Well, how many college teammates did we hear from in the pre-draft process saying they love him? How many of his new teammates are saying, yeah, he's not really anything like what people were saying online? Like, Cole Kmet was like, yeah, I met him. I was like, oh, you're nothing like people portrayed you out to be. It's just frustrating as hell when you see these guys come into the draft, deal with a lot of this BS. Justin Fields dealt with a lot of BS. Remember, Dan Orlovsky went out there and said he's the last guy in the building, first guy to leave type of guy. Say what you want about Justin Fields, work ethic was never an issue in his 3 years in Chicago. So it's just frustrating. Jaylon said this as well. Said he fits in perfectly. He comes into work. I mean, the fans are hard-nosed. Our team is hard-nosed, and he has kind of been built on that. He's coming in and fitting in perfectly. And again, there's a lesson here. And I'm not saying I've, never had an opinion on a guy or thought, yeah, maybe he's like this. I mean, we're all human, right? But let people themselves and the closest people around them, not people on national TV who weren't around the USC program, et cetera, let those people show you who they are with their words and with their actions. The character assassination of Caleb, it's just out of control. Way too much BS that has been thrown out there over the last year. And since he's been on the team, have we heard a single coach, player, or person in that organization say anything but glowing reviews about the guy as a player and as a guy? I'm not saying they're going to tear him down publicly, but Jaylon Johnson he kind of just tells you how he sees it. And for him to come around this quickly, that feels pretty significant to me. How excited are you for Caleb Williams? Scale of 1 to 100, 1 being not excited at all, 100 being incredibly. I'm in the 90s, man. I can't wait to watch this guy. Training camp's almost here, and preseason game against the Texans Hall of Fame game is less than 3 weeks away. Speaking of QB1, want to get his jersey? Of course you do. Chatsports.com/Caleb. We got plenty available in stock right now. Chatsports.com/Caleb. That link will be in the comments and in the description of this video. Go to chatsports.com/Caleb and pick yourself up a Caleb Williams jersey today. All right, Jaylon also just talked about the team in general and this roster for the 2024 season, and he's pretty excited about it. Via Jim Rome, once again here, he said, I'm just looking forward to winning. I think that's my biggest focus right now. It's always been my biggest focus, but even more now. To actually being able to say this is one of the best rosters I've had since being with the Bears, we're gelling together. I feel like we can do something special. And I think, it is clearly the best roster he's been on with the Bears. You know, his rookie year in 2020, they made the playoffs. They still had some players left over from 2018 and 19, but that team was starting to age. Certainly didn't have the offensive talent that this team has now. I think it's pretty clearly the best roster since those 18 and 19 teams. The 19 team was still loaded. They just massively underachieved. Mitch just wasn't that guy, right? Like, if that team had a top 10 QB, team would have won 12, 13 games because that defense was still awesome. But things started to slip in 2020. Defensively, the offense was still an issue, and obviously things blew up from there. And it's been a rebuild the last few years. But I think on paper, this team is the most talented one since 2018. I would say the 18 team had more on defense overall, but the offense, it's not even close on paper. So this team has a chance to be pretty good, I think, which is very exciting. Now, obviously, there's still holes. There's still areas to address. I still think adding an edge rusher makes sense. Getting a defensive tackle in here could be an option as well. You know, I think they feel pretty good about Gervon Dexter, but even if you feel good about him as a starter, adding a depth piece there, I think, could be valuable. And then interior offensive line. Are you going to roll with what you got? Bates and Shelton at center, then Nate Davis at right guard. Do they feel comfortable with that combination, or are they going to bring in some competition? We'll have to wait and see. But even with those roster holes or at least question marks, they're pretty loaded at a lot of positions. And if Caleb is the right guy, then they got a chance to be really, really good. What is the biggest weakness in your eyes on this Bears roster? Where do they need something to change or to improve upon? I think it's getting another impactful defensive lineman, but I want to hear from you guys. All right, real quick, Bears training camp is almost here. I mentioned it off the top, some of the dates to know. July 16th, Rookies Report. July 19th, Veterans Report. I know a lot of you guys are going to ask, so I'll go ahead and address it. Yes, as of filming this on Friday the 12th, Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze still have not signed their rookie contracts. They're not the only first-round picks to have not signed. J.J. McCarthy being a notable one. Marius Mims as well. I think I said a week, 10 days ago, let's get to the 10th to 12th, and at that point, I'm at least going to heavily monitor it. Yeah, like we've entered I'm monitoring this zone. But still got a few days. Even if they haven't signed by the 16th, the first full-fledged practice won't be until after the Vets Report on the 19th, so I'm not really that concerned until the 20th, but you'd like this handled by the time the Rookies Report on the 16th, which is next Tuesday. So could be a busy weekend. Maybe they get these guys signed. If they don't, I'd be curious to see if there's any reporting to what's going on behind the scenes. But obviously you don't want this distraction if you can avoid it if you're the Bears. So let's get this done and focus on the on-the-field product and improving the team. All right, appreciate everybody for tuning in to Chicago Bears Now. I'm glad to be back from vacation. We're rocking, we're rolling, busy days ahead. So keep it locked in here by subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you guys very soon.